Greetings everyone. This is an earthquake watch for October 19 through to October 22. Recent solar observations the last 30 hours indicate a period of significant seismic activity, and we are starting to see a slight increase in the last day or so, and I'm expecting this to continue. And the main reason is the extensive activity we have received in the X-ray band, and as we can see, this humongous spike that was recorded on the 16th of October, and this could be associated with the M-class flare, and it appears to me that we could be receiving a fairly large earthquake, possibly 7.5 in magnitude, followed by an aftershock or two significant events in two different regions. The latest information from the Space Weather Prediction Centre also gives us an indication that the next 3 days we could be entering an active period for seismic activities. Now I'm going to be flicking through some imagery here, and we're going to be targeting a few coronal holes that could give us a likely location of the large event that I perceive could be coming. And this is the coronal hole that I've cast my attention to, and is above the active region associated here. And I'm thinking that this coronal hole could be associated with the Taiwan region, and this area above would be the Japan Islands. And we'll get the Google Earth open and have a closer look. And this is the area that I think the coronal hole is mapped perfectly to, and it's just on the inside of Taiwan, and the Ryukyu Islands is perhaps the closest area. Now the mapped area is absolutely perfect with this region, but there are no volcanoes or fault lines around. The only area would be around here, so that would indicate that a possible volcano going off in these regions, or the event around about Taiwan. So that'll be my first watch and the main area of concern, and that'll be from October 19 and 20. I will flick through these images now, and we can see that there is a significant contrast difference between them all, and it makes it fairly difficult to get a clear indication of the area. So, but we do get to see the actual coronal hole and the features around the coronal hole, which will indicate the areas in and around. Now this is the solar monitor, and we can get to have a look, although this data is a few days old, we do get an extensive look at the filaments associated with this active region, and it's what did produce the M-class flare, and fairly humongous size on this. I haven't seen one as big as this for a long time, and it's still attached to the sun, which is very rare. They usually let loose, and we are at still risk from receiving another M-class flare over the next 24 hours with this. Although this is 2 days old, the filament will now be over in this region, and this is fairly an interesting instrument to look at, because it gives us a different look at the coronal holes. Now the photon data has been off the scales the last day or so, and some significant activities here. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to be receiving a few fairly sizable earthquakes, or possibly a large volcanic eruption in the areas that I've mapped, and I'm going to be mapping and matching right now. Okay, we'll have a look at the SDO and the moving imagery, and we'll have a look at the active region that's passing right now. And we can see it's fairly active at the moment, and we could be receiving an event around the Chile or the Kermadec Islands, which is just above New Zealand, and that'll be the main area of concern for the next 24 hours, although I don't expect it to be a large event. It could possibly be a 6-ish, and it is fairly dangerous, and we can see this, it's fairly a predominant feature here, and it's almost passing us, which is good news, and that is a main area of concern. I'm going to map and match this area also. And the best mapped area would be just above New Zealand and underneath the dangerous areas of Vanuatu and Tonga, and they have been fairly active the last few days. And this is the area, and this is a fault line that I'm targeting, could be at risk. There are a few little volcanoes in this region also that may be in play, but I'm thinking that Kermadec Islands would be the likely or the most likely location for this event, and also Chile. And the likely area would be Antofagasta in Chile. And I don't think it'll be a fairly significant event, although it will be 6-ish. I do think that there is a lot of pressure that needs to be released based on the solar imagery and the X-ray spike. So we could be getting some large events in the southern hemisphere, and there is an ominous coronal hole coming also. We'll have a look at that. We can see a very, very large feature here, and that'll be perhaps a very dangerous area for New Zealand, probably 45 to 46 degrees also. So that, we've got a lot of coronal holes and a lot of things that are sticking out and presenting fairly significant dangers. So we are seeing a predominant feature here and a possible Chile or Germanic Islands event over the next 24 to 36 hours. And if we look up on the solar corona, we can see some fairly significant coronal features in the about north 30 degrees region. So we are approaching a fairly significant time. We'll have a look at the northern hemisphere now, and we can see some coronal features here that we need to take serious note of, and we'll get a better look at the AIA 193, and we can see the features and the regions involved here. And it seems to me that the Taiwan region and the Japan Islands region may be affected, and there's also a chance that Mexico also may be involved. Okay, and just summarising now, we are seeing, well, what I believe is 3 dangerous locations and the potential of 2 largish earthquakes, and the areas that I've targeted are north 23 degrees, and the other regions will be the southern hemisphere of 30 degrees and 45 degrees during the watch period. Now, the most likely areas for the northern hemisphere, and I did show the Taiwan region as being perhaps the number 1 area, and this will be my number 2, and that'll be the Puerto Rico area. And this area has been littered with, or peppered with, very, very smaller events. And what we may see is, again, a scattering of smaller events over a large region. And I'm thinking of north 19 to north 19 to north 23 degrees will be in play. And that'll put all of these regions at risk. And I did make a video, the last video was regarding the Gulf of California. That is also in play, and it could even go to Hawaii as well. So there is a fairly wide region that would be involved in this, mainly due to the size of the coronal hole and the movement of the coronal hole. So the best area that I have would be Taiwan, and that will be the main area, and this will be the second area of concern of a large event for the northern hemisphere. And New Zealand may be at risk for the last of the 3 events, or the later. So this could be October 20 to 22, and perhaps south 45 degrees would be the likely area, and the Christchurch area may be in danger as well. So we need to take close note of this. I think there's been 1,600 earthquakes since the major one, Aftershocks, and the area is at risk again with that coronal hole, and I am a little bit concerned about New Zealand. It doesn't appear that we'll get an event in Chile this low, so New Zealand will be definitely at risk, perhaps on the later reaches of the watch period, October 21, 22, and above New Zealand. So perhaps this whole entire fault line may be affected, and we have been seeing events in Tonga recently. And so they will be my watch areas for the next 3 to 4 days, and thanks for watching.